It's an incredible sight to see top teams from around the world and living legends in the sport already assembling on one stage. Now, you can really feel the excitement, too, of the fans in the house there, for all of the teams, not just the hometown favorites, but those who have traveled across the world. And I think for me, particularly, what I love the most about this is looking at this tournament on paper, arguably the most competitive world championship we've had to date going in.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned with the upper echelons of play, it's going to be very close. You can't say that one of these teams is miles above the other one, at least with the preparation beforehand. Once the games start, perhaps things change, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was very easy, I feel, for me to predict the last two winners before the tournament even started. But this year, I think SK Telecom, but I am nowhere near as confident as I was in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's when we look at this, it's going to make our jobs very fun, right? When we parse through all this information, I know we all did our pick'ems. We'll see how those pan out throughout the tournament. But in general, just kind of the aura of curiosity that surrounds this tournament and this first day of play, which I think will be so telling. On top of the fact that we haven't seen these teams in quite some time.
I'm just happy we're guaranteed to have very, very good games no matter what. This is like compared to last Worlds, it was like some games that were just, this is over, no matter what,
Without a doubt, some good games ahead of us. Now, over the next 2 weeks, teams will be competing in a round-robin group stage where each team will face off against every other team in their group twice. The top two teams from each group will advance to the knockout stage in London, while the other two will go home. Now, let's start by taking a quick look at how the group draw played out. In Group A, we have the number one seed from North America, CounterLogic Gaming, Korea's KOO Tigers, the LMS's Flash Wolves, and the international wildcard from Brazil's CB LOL Pain Gaming. Monty, thoughts on this group?
My thoughts on this group should be pretty easy for KOO Tigers to get out. I think CLG can come out of this group, too. Of course, I do have some lingering doubts because they didn't get that full boot camp in with Xmithie. But even then, the rest of the group relatively weaker. But it's going to be a tight race, I think, for number two. And one loss to Pain or one loss to the Flash Wolves really could just disrupt the entire balance.
Well, and Crumbs, you spoke to the possibility that Pain could even find their way out of this group if things fall in the right places.
Well, I mean, there's chances of hail in Los Angeles as well, and many things could happen. But yes, there's obviously a possibility for Pain to do well. I'm hoping for it. I want to root for the underdogs, the South American team, I mean. And I want to see that happen, but it is, again, unlikely because of the strength of CLG.
Now, moving on to Group B, it's Europe's number one seed Fnatic, the LPL's Invictus Gaming, the LMS's AHQ Esports Club, and Cloud9 of the North American LCS. Yamato, throwing this one to you.
I feel like the two favorites are very obvious, the Fnatic and Invictus Gaming. It's very hard for me to judge who's going to take the first seed, but this group with Cloud9 and AHQ in it, I think we could possibly see some upsets.
You don't think AHQ is making a run for the top two?
I doubt it. I feel Invictus Gaming and Fnatic are the obvious favorites, but I'm expecting, with the fact that there's been such a huge time difference where we haven't seen LMS, I think there's a possibility they can bring up something fresh.
Well, especially IG, they're the team that I'm looking at because I feel that I know how strong EDG is and I know how strong LGD is, but IG is a team that has been so inconsistent that it's really hard to get a read on them. Kid and Kitties, they have to replicate their most recent performances if they want to do well, because they typically really haven't been that strong.
I think the inconsistency comes from the actual play style that is pretty much stuck within the LPL, that all these teams kind of promote each other to play wild all the time, and I think that's one of the things that leads to it. And I don't think this tournament is really going to bring out that inconsistency out of IG, and they'll probably buckle down a lot better.
Let's jump over to Group C, which is going to include Korea's number one seed, SK Telecom T1, the EU LCS's H2K, China's Edward Gaming, and the international wildcard representing the GPL, the Bangkok Titans. Crumbs?
Well, I don't want to be that guy for H2K and Bangkok Titans, but it's really a shame,
It's a grim picture.
As soon as the groups are drawn, it's like, all right, well, guys, let's make vacation plans in Europe. This group is going to be SKT and EDG getting out very clearly, and H2K and Bangkok will just have to use this as a learning opportunity and just try to have some fun out there.
Well, and while it's unfortunate for H2K and the Bangkok Titans, from my perspective, having EDG and SKT in the same group is fantastic because that means they'll go into the opposite side of the brackets when they make it out, and that increases our odds of having a really awesome final. So that's really exciting for me.
Be a sweet rematch.
Like, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I'm just hoping we get the EDG SKT final. This is just my dream.
We're set up for the storylines. We'll see if they fall in place. Well, finally, in Group D, it's China's #1 seed, LGD Gaming, Korea's KT Rolster, North America's Team Solomid, and the EU LCS's Origin. And although maybe not as lopsided as Group C, I personally feel here too as well, though the European and North American seeds are in a huge hole that they're about to have to climb out of in order to take down Goliaths like LGD and KT.
I think this is the team, the group that has the most fans behind it, because all these teams are pretty popular. Everybody really knows who these guys are and want to see their own region do very well. And we don't really know how well they're going to do, just because, at least personally, I take a lot of the information that the pros say is like, oh, these guys have been doing really well in scrims. I'm like, oh, maybe he said that. I mean, he knows something I don't, obviously. So I want to see.
I know you've
that
got
come
some
to
thoughts on how
fruition.
scrims have been going.
I mean, my big question is KT, right? Sure, they looked good in the gauntlet, but in their 8-1 best-of-3 run in the second half of the summer season in Korea, it's impressive. They only lost to SK Telecom in best-of-3s. When we go back and we actually dig into those matches, they were losing to single games to some of the worst teams in Korea. So they need to get that consistency up. If KT gets rolling in the early game, if they start to get kills, they're unstoppable. If they start to fall behind, they don't play from behind very well. So the key for them is going to be that early aggression. And if people can replicate SK Telecom shutting down Score and Peekaboo, then I think there's a chance that KT doesn't make it out.
Now, if it's not KT, is it TSM or Origin?
Origin.
Okay.
For sure. I feel like in this group, even though there's two clear favorites, I feel like LGD and KT have shown inconsistency throughout the season. So I think it will be interesting to watch this group.
All right, maybe closer than I may have thought to begin with. Well, throughout the tournament, teams will be competing on patch 518, where a lot has changed since the last time we saw most of these teams play way back on 514. Most notably, gentlemen, we saw changes going towards the top lane.
Well, that top lane shift will affect the bottom lane even harder, because that means that the guys that can TP into the bot lane are going to be more powerful than they ever were. So you get a Darius TP into your bot lane and just triple kill everybody with the mid lane TP, and it's just going to be complete madness for everybody down here. I don't think the bot lane is really going to have a lot of fun playing here. So I think that they'll just constantly lane swap and really just avoid having to deal with teleports, because it is going to be a pain in the ass, especially if you have to deal with dragons as well from Mordekaiser.
Something else that has gone through a lot of changes is also the mid lane, because throughout the season we've had only Victor and Ozzy going around, but these two champions have been nerfed, and a lot of assassins have been buffed, and I think that's going to have a massive impact on Worlds as well.
Well, just the number of mid laners you can run with teleport right now. If you don't lane swap, games are just going to turn into 5v5s very early on in the bottom lane, because there's a whole swath of champions that can run TP out of the mid lane. So, I mean, expect some pretty wild skirmishes very early in the game.
All of this in mind, when we look at the 16 teams that are going to be here on the world stage, how does all of these changes to the game affect the landscape of League of Legends as we'll see it play out over the next few weeks?
Dash, I don't think anybody knows, really. I don't think anybody... I mean, these changes were so massive. We can sit here, we can have ideas of what's going to be played. Obviously, Mordekaiser's quite strong. Gangplank and Lulu, because of their nature, being able to be played in both the top and mid lane, should be very high priority picks and bans, but I have no clue.
I think a cool thing, too, is the itemizations. Like, all the other tournaments, you can kind of expect, okay, this guy's going to build this, now this item follows up. Now you can build pretty much anything you want. We've seen crazy builds even in the earlier patches, and now that 518 has arrived, there's so many new items and different paths and itemizations with crazy champions that we've never seen before. So it's another thing to keep track on, be like, oh, take some notes down. This is what's good.
Well, we have no clue. Maybe you at home have a clue. So we're going to look to you in the Twitter sphere. Hit us up at LOL Esports and tell us which player and lane will have the biggest impact on 518 and why. Be sure to hashtag Worlds so we can talk over some of your answers on the desk later today. Now, before we head back inside the venue for Game 1, let's check out what we have on the docket with today's schedule. Kicking off the tournament are the hometown favorites, Europe's #1 seed Fnatic versus China's Invictus Gaming. Then Cloud9 will take on AHQ Esports. After that, we'll move over to Group C for a grudge match between the two Zeds, SK Telecom versus H2K, and we'll conclude day 1 in Group A with Brazil's Pain Gaming versus the KOO Tigers. Now let's get your predictions, gentlemen. 2015 World Championship, Game 1, Fnatic versus Invictus Gaming. Crumbs, we're starting
Fnatic,
with you.
baby. It's gotta
Fnatic.
be. These are the guys. I'm hoping these guys can take it somewhere. You know, I'm putting in a little a little extra love instead of analysis into this. I want them to do well. I want to see a Western team. And the shame that happens is that throughout the entire season, there's always NA versus EU. And then when it happens that the EU team is better, all the people from NA are just like, yeah, we'll cheer for EU now. So
You got to get behind those Western teams at Worlds, Monty.
You may be surprised, but with equal numbers of Korean players on both of these teams, I actually, I can't just go by my default of who has more Koreans. So it's definitely going to be Fnatic for me as well. I think this team is going to be very, very sharp coming in here. They really buckled down in their boot camp in Korea, I know. And they obviously had a great season in Europe, and they will be a major threat here. I also just think they're more consistent than IG. And I think that Yellowstar and Reckless is a very favorable matchup for Kid and Kitties. For me, it depends on, can Febiven stay alive in that mid lane? Because that synergy between Kakao and Rookie is extraordinary.
So it's not just a math equation this time. There is thought behind it. Next up, Yamato.
Well, of course, I'm going to go for Fnatic as well, simply because I like to go for the solid choice. I feel like at this point, IG is like rolling a dice, and but IG doesn't have a 6. That's the problem,
All right, well, there you have it. The desk is in unison for Game 1 of the 2015 World Championships. We're going to have to mix things up later in the show, gentlemen, get it more exciting. Well, without further ado, let's send it over to the caster booth to get us into the games.
Thank you very much, Dash, and the rest of the analyst desk. My name's Trevor Quickshot Henry. I'm joined by Joshua Jatt Leesman and Mr. Martin DeFicio Linger. That's it.
Yeah.
Need the title. Guys, we are kicking off the 2015 World Championship with our first match. Fnatic taking on Invictus Gaming shortly. The players on stage getting themselves settled.
And we just saw the analyst desk here. 3 guys saying Fnatic was going to win. 18-0 in the summer split here. Only lost 2 games to Origin in the final. Very, very close games overall. And Origin could honestly have won their best out of 5. But Fnatic are here now because they've been so dominant all season long.
Yeah, we saw the dominance all season long. We saw the fan reaction when they came out. And honestly, this is the highest expectations that have been on a Western team really since Moscow 5 and CLG EU attended Season 2 World Championships. So there's a lot of pressure on this team and a lot of expectations to fulfill. IG is a hell of a team to have to start against.
It is for sure, but people can trust in Fnatic to do proper preparation for a team like IG because the coaching staff behind them, we have Daylor, of course, getting so much praise. We have the manager, Ispa, as well, making sure that players are eating healthy, they're working out, and everything Fnatic as an organization is doing is supporting these players, and they're just making sure that as long as they focus on the game, they should be able to perform at the top level. And that's what you need. That's what the West needed beforehand. We see the same for CLG now with their coach, and they're now the #1 team in North America.
Yeah, that support staff is giving them the consistency. Gentlemen, I think it's about time to meet the starting lineup from the European LCS. One of the most hyped top laners. It is, of course, the Hollow Master himself, Huni. Reignover in the jungle, Febiven in the mid lane, Reckless as the AD carry, and the French player for Fnatic and captain, Yellowstar, the support. We saw some glimpses of Daylor there on your screen just behind the players. He is their coach. Their opponents today, Invictus Gaming. They will be on the red side of the rift. They will be representing the LPL. And they will be starting with Zitai in the top lane, Kakao in the jungle, Rookie in the mid lane. Kid is your AD carry, and then Kitty's their support. Coach on stage as well is Mafa, formerly of the LCK. Now, Invictus Gaming had a bit of a bumpy end to their summer split, ended up placing 3rd seed in the regional qualifiers after losing to EDG in that battle for the 2nd seed.
Yeah, heavily inconsistent team, but we really have to talk about how strong their top side of the map can be. The synergy between Kakao and Rookie, as well as the emergence of Zitai on those carry top laners, should challenge Huni and Reignover's synergy in that top lane. Yes, the bottom lane can go to Fnatic's favor if we see that, but the top side of the map is so strong for IG, it's going to be a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, and in the mid lane, of course, Rookie, the guy getting praised as one of the best mid laners in the entire world. He's going against Febiven, and it's very different how the teams are looking at these mid laners here. Fnatic obviously don't really play around Febiven too much. It's about these side lanes. But Rookie and Kakao, their synergy together can shut down almost any mid laner in the world. Febiven is a guy, though, whenever he plays these top names, these really, really big star players, he does tend to perform even better. We saw him solo kill Faker at MSI. We talk about it so often. So I think he will be okay in holding his own. It's when Kakao joins in, we get some problems for Fnatic.
Yeah, but I got to ask a bigger question. If Kakao's joining in against Reignover, isn't this a massive mismatch in the jungle?
It is.
Everybody was saying Kakao's going to beat up on Reignover.
Yeah, and we've seen so many times watching IG's games how he gets almost slingshotted ahead in the jungle because Kakao is one of the few who still gets pulls from his duo
It's
lane.
unfair, man.
To get level 2 super fast, that means he hits level 3 faster than the enemy jungler. It means he gets double buffs, and it means he can start invading the jungle and take over the game. When asked, actually, Kakao, if he was going to show that his synergy with his mid laner was legendary at Worlds, he says no, he's going to kill all 3 lanes because that's why he plays jungle. So he's getting slingshotted in that jungle, and he's going to be looking to carry some games.
He's one of the few real carry junglers we have here at Worlds. We see a lot of these guys who play more for the team. We see a lot of late game picks still coming in with Cinderhulk. I'm expecting at least for the team fight, Kakao is the guy who will still pull out the Nidalee and he will just go to town. And he's so strong in these one-on-ones. Scary guy to watch for, but he's also fairly inconsistent. And that has been the downfall of IG. When he doesn't get rolling or if he doesn't push Rookie forward, Fnatic suddenly might get towards the late game and do really well.
Consistently inconsistent. I think we've heard it from every single analyst when they're talking about IG. Yamato actually with some strong words there that you can roll the dice. IG not having a 6 on theirs, implying Fnatic does.
Yeah, I don't agree in that one from...
Of course they have a 6.
Yeah.
IG has some of the highest highs and the lowest lows of LPL teams. That's exactly what being inconsistent is if you're still a good team. So I agree that if IG absolutely has the capability of rolling high.
But this is now a new patch, a new meta, all these new picks coming in. And of course all the teams have been boot camping in Korea, so they've been playing each other. They've probably seen all the picks, but everyone will have something secret ready. So this pick and ban phase, we have 2 teams who are not afraid to pull out, you know, the different kind of things. We even saw Time Kench from Yellowstar, Cassiopeia top lane from Huni at MSI. There's a lot of new picks, so this one might not reflect 100% what the meta is going to be.
Right, it could be specific strategies just for this game even. We want to make all these conclusions about what the world's meta is going to be, but it's really going to take a ton of iterations throughout this group stage. We probably won't even start seeing it until the quarterfinals happen because there's going to be so many in-game and out-of-game adjustments that happen here. This first champion select just has almost too many possibilities to talk about.
Yeah, some of the really strong picks we've heard a lot, you know, from the players, and a lot of people have been talking about them on Twitter and on Reddit and so on. It's like there are 3 picks it seems that everyone agrees on are super strong. Lulu, of course, as a flex pick, top and mid lane. We have Gangplank, the same deal, can go top, can go mid. And then, of course, the Mordekaiser down in the bottom lane. Very snowball-focused champion, but when he gets rolling, he can take over the game completely.
Yeah, and what I find so fascinating about that is even though this is a new patch and those champions have been nerfed slightly, China got to play on the 5.16 patch for the LPL finals, and when IG qualified against QG, they were letting Lulu and Gangplank through to the opponent team on multiple times, and they've been nerfed since then. So even those champions
Playing on
are
hard
now
mode.
considered high. We have no idea what's happening.
Well, we're going to find out. We've talked about Maud, we've talked about Lulu, Gangplank, we've not even mentioned Fiora or Darius. And ladies and gentlemen, for the game 1 of the 2015 World Championships, we are into picks and bans. And the dunk master Darius is dunked into the bans.
Not really a big surprise. Fiora and Darius, as you just mentioned, are being hyped up quite a lot as well. And we have to remind people, this is the blue side ban for Fnatic, so they might still be able to first pick one of these 3 picks we just mentioned before.
Yeah, the Lulu ban makes a lot of sense. Fnatic had a ton of success, as did everyone running that as a flex pick between the mid and the top lane.
And that can be a very interesting thing when it comes to red side, blue side now, because red side used to be where you could like target ban a little bit more because you wanted multiple OPs to be open so you can get 2 of them on your side. In this case, if there's only 3 that every team agrees on, you have to ban away at least one of them, and then you can trade the last one. But they go for all 3, it looks like.
Mordekaiser ban, first of its kind that we will see.
Gangplank is still up, gentlemen. There are 2 bans remaining. I wonder if these teams will be looking towards that, as is Kalista. We've not touched on some of the AD carry roles yet either.
Really, Vayne is actually banned before Kalista. Kalista has received some nerfs throughout patches now. One of the lowest win rate you have in solo queue, but still tremendous competitive capability. It has actually been left up with Gangplank going down. I wonder what Huni will end up playing and how much priority is on the first pick. Really not that much, it seems.
But this was exactly what we just mentioned before with the red side. If there's only 3 super strong picks, you have to ban them away from IG's side, and they're just playing it safe. Not gonna take any chances here. We've seen Reckless spam a lot of Mordekaiser in solo queue. Elise, I'm not surprised. I think she's the best jungler open or just available basically, because
Italy.
a lot of them are very even, but Elise just for me stands out just a little bit. Her early game is still great, and the fact she has the cocoon.
Yeah, so Nidalee, I wonder if Kakao is going to play this. For a second, I thought they'd actually locked in Aatrox. is about to freak out.
It's not a European team.
Brom has been banned, so the poke from Nidalee would be higher, but Kakao actually goes for Skarner as he did during their final regional qualifier match against QG.
So, ladies and gentlemen, 3 out of the 4 Juggernauts have already appeared in Game 1 of Worlds. There's 5 seconds left for the lock-in. IG most likely going to go for the safe support pick, and it is the Thresh secured.
And you get one of these compositions now where your single target CC is so insane already in the first 2 picks. Stun from Skarner, then you pull them in with your ulti, the Threshold coming in as well. The amount of pick potential you have on just 2 picks, and also still very safe. Skarner's gonna do fine dueling in that early game. He doesn't gank that well before level 6.
I definitely want to see how Kitties performs. Out of the 67 games in summer, only 3 of them were on Thresh. For Fnatic, they now know what they're facing in the jungle, they now know what their support is, but solo lanes still left available for both teams.
And with both Lulu and Gangplank being banned away, that's 2 of the most standard flex picks we're going to see. On blue side now, you might have to blind pick both your solo laners, which can be a big problem for Fnatic, and it would open up potentially for some interesting counter picks from IG.
Yeah, well, what's interesting here is that Shen could technically be flexed. It's been a long time since we've seen Shen support, but it could absolutely fit in this context. Or Huni can play it as a neutralizing tank in the top lane. But as far as what we know of Huni's champion pool, he really doesn't have that much success on neutralizing tanks like Maokai. So that's a very interesting pick of Shen this early from Fnatic.
But it is one of these flex picks here for Fnatic, so potentially they can hide one of their solo laners, but I'm expecting to go to Yellowstar for the exact reason you just mentioned, and also this Shen would then open up another way for Huni to duel Zitai. And with Reynova join, Kakao join, we're gonna have so many fights on that top side of the map. Shen support will fit in super well there.
And a lot of opportunity left for IG. I like how long these teams are taking in the pick and ban phase. There are so many different things to be prepared for that they have to switch it up. And we already get to see Riven. Zitai, hello!
Rookie could also take it to the mid lane.
He could.
For IG. But again, you have this conversation with Ashe. Even more single target pick potential. And then you add in a burst bruiser in Riven, even an assassin we can call
and
him.
Skarner.
And Skarner again to jump on that one target and simply just burst him down. Fnatic, they're gonna look to get a QSS. Not as the first item, but they probably wish they could.
Well, Invictus Gaming already with some surprises. And for Fnatic, I'm not seeing a lot of damage yet. They do have 20 seconds. They will be showing both of their solo lanes. And as we mentioned, that Riven could technically flex. If you were in Fnatic's shoes, how do you round this comp out?
I'd expect a Victor of some kind in here.
Azir, Victor.
Just a reliable damage mage. We were wondering whether Febiven would be switching over to an assassin playstyle or if he'd stick with the more defensive mages. And it is Azir, not necessarily defensive mage, but a high damage control mage.
Yeah, and I think Azir is a little bit safer as a blind pick compared to Victor now that his early game has been nerfed a little bit. You can get onto him and you can duel him very effective. Azir can just, from basically level 1 or level 2, to start pushing his wave. And if he's in a bad matchup, you just push out your lane and you don't look to fight the guy and you farm up to late. So I like that as the blind safe pick for Fnatic, but really being on blue side has been an issue for them because they have to show so many things.
Exactly, and with the nerfs to Azir and lower movement speed, as well as the potential rise of assassins, we were wondering how dangerous it would be to pick Azir early, even though Azir can push up the lane here. But Rookie also played Victor in his last 3 competitive games and crushed with it. So it would not be very surprising if he picks it here.
Yeah, that was a funny thing about this 5-16 regionals we saw in LPL, where Victor just got nerfed, the CS just got nerfed, and yet it was Victor who became one of the most impactful champions in the tournament itself. It's still super strong. Early game, yes, is affected, but when it comes to the late game scaling, it is even better than before.
Final champion locked in. There we go. Victor, once you eventually get to level 18, it outscales. I'm going to be very interested to see how Skarner and Riven will perform. Team compositions are now rounded out. Jet.
Not only do we get to see Riven, we get to see Huni come back onto Hecarim again, something he hasn't touched in a really long time. Support Shen. It's really just a throwback competition for Fnatic. It's like we're on the 5-12 patch again. with the champions they're playing.
I'm just looking at Fnatic here saying, we know you're going to play around that top side of the map with the Riven. We have Shen support, Elise, strong early game jungler. We have an offensive summoner spell on our top laner. We are ready to take that fight. Whoever wins it might just run away with the game.
Both of these teams want to do just that. Two of the most talked about top laners in the World Championships. You can see the coaches on screen, Daylor and Mafa, getting them teams the last little bit of information as we load up onto the Rift. We are, of course, here in Le Doc Pullman in Paris, France. The audience is cheering on their teams, as are everybody watching at home.
I mean, the first pick in Van Phase.
I love it.
We weren't
Absolutely
exactly
love it.
sure what to expect.
Maud, Lulu, and GP, gone.
I'm actually a little bit surprised because of how dated feeling Fnatic's champions look like. No one was expecting really Hecarim to be a large pick, or Sivir, or support Shen, and they have all of them.
Well, you did see the team comps on your screens. Guys, jump onto Twitter and vote for who you feel will be victorious and get that first W on the board. Hashtag FNC win or hashtag IG win. Make sure you guys keep your eyes open. Be on the lookout for any Penta kills or any Baron steals, because that is going to unlock a little bit of an extra chance to get a legendary or esports inspired skin. Guys, we do have a very brief pause, and I want to mention this Hecarim point you touched on, Jat. 21 games since Huni has last played that champion.
Okay.
Admittedly,
Yeah.
it's been, what, 2.5 weeks?
Yeah,
3
very,
weeks since
the very
competitive.
beginning of the summer split.
Correct.
Been the last one we played.
24 games total. So.
Hecarim was a pick when he was used a lot. They always did really well into melee matchups because you can constantly just sit and spam your Q. And again, when you don't run with the smite, as we saw for a period of time here with Cinderhulk, you have an offensive summoner, you're going to rush the Trinity Force. You are very, very strong in the mid game. And when we have these all-in comps on the top side of the map with the Riven jumping in, with the Skarner going in and trying to pull someone back, Fnatic are going to be ready to fight for it. So I wonder if IG is going to say, you know what, we're not going to fall for that one. We're going to try and play around the Shen instead and have this massive amount of teleport and action in the bottom side where there's Thresh and Ashe are there to provide the CC.
Yeah, and as far as the early game strengths of these teams go, I do have to point out, Kakao has only played Skarner 2 times. He picked it up after they actually lost to EDG when Clearlove played Skarner against them, and then he played it twice. In those games, he completed a Sightstone right after he upgraded the first part of his Hunter's Machete. So incredibly early on in the game, that would be really a Sightstone rush on Skarner, who already needs to farm until 6. So he's actually playing a very weak early game Skarner style that is pretty much all about defensive wards. That actually gives Fnatic a potential window to aggress on the top side, because Kakao's counter ganks are not that strong to support a Riven who needs a lot of jungle attention.
You're 100% going to see Reyna will be more active when it comes to ganking in the early game than a pre-level 6 Skarner. Skarner, on the other hand, he often benefits a lot from having lanes that can push, so he can invade into the enemy jungle, contest, of course, a little bit in there. He's dueling pretty well. It's just running to a target pre-level 6 is not very effective. You have to land your E then to connect the stun as well, and that's very difficult for him. So we might see Reignover be very active. We've seen it before, Trevor, in Europe, how Reignover is constantly around Huni in that top lane and try and snowball him, because then eventually Huni would TP to the bottom side, and every single lane is then rolling for Fnatic.
It's pretty much Fnatic style. Guys, I do have an update from production that players are having a little bit of glare on the screens from the stage lights, so while our technicians are tweaking with those settings, we will just keep chatting a little bit more about the matchup. And for Yellowstar to play Shen, it is a champion he's also only played twice, something that Fnatic were in fact punished with when playing against the likes of Origin and H2K, because Fnatic played so much around their top lane, then all of a sudden their opponent Shen would TP up and Huni would go, oh bugger. This time around, they're now trying to channel some of that power themselves, knowing, of course, that Kakao wants to hold Rookie or Zitai's hand.
Yeah, and with Rookie playing Victor, I'm not expecting all the action to be around the middle lane. This is going to be more the farm lane. Just try and push each other out, see who can roam first. Often Azir, when he gets the Nashus, he can really push the lane, but then Victor goes back with his E and just instant clears it.
Yeah, and only in general, it's a question of what style we're going to see this game. Fnatic actually adopted a somewhat defensive or passive play style in the first 15 to 20 minutes of games over in the European LCS because they were so dominant. They didn't need to take large amounts of risks in the early game, so therefore they started playing more passive. But we'd expect in the month leading up to Worlds, playing against higher and higher caliber teams, that they would have adopted some more aggression. And we're kind of seeing that reflected in their early picks here. The Hecarim and the Elise are two champions that look for very early plays.
Yeah, and once again, Fnatic, when it comes to preparation, we know how much work they put into it. So Again, they've been watching all these games here from IG, looking at how they play. And I think we can safely say that over 3-4 weeks of boot camping, if Fnatic was still extremely weak in the early game and kept getting punished and losing games for it, they would have changed something. So if they stick to the style we've seen in Europe, it's because they've still been able to play well in late game team fights. The same thing I want to say for IG though, because as a team, while they are so inconsistent and we often talk so much about the early game, Kakao, Zitai, and Rookie, when it comes to late game team fights, I think they are a very strong team. They are in the LPL, fantastic practice, of course, and Kid is a fairly underrated AD carry when it comes to these team fights. I don't think he's ever going to do a whole lot in the laning phase because of Kitties as well, has kind of hold his hand in the lane. But then in team fights, Kid often plays some of these carries like Vayne and can go crazy.
Well, one game wasn't particularly great, but that's,
Okay, that's fair.
separate
That's fair.
story. Huni on the Hecarim will be setting his target on Kid. I mean, Ashe, low mobility. If Huni comes in with those TP home guard rushes, that could be a little bit of a problem for him. Assuming Fnatic gets to a good mid-game position. For Fnatic coming up against IG, their team fighting, you've talked about it. How much will this team composition affect their ability to fight?
I absolutely love Fnatic's composition in team fights. Right here, you have fantastic engage on the backline, as you mentioned with the Ashe here, low mobility coming in. At the same time, if you look at what IG is running, when you have a Riven, you're never going to look to engage this head on. You want to flank with the Riven at first. So whoever gets that vision control before objectives can be super impactful for both Hecarim and Riven getting into fights.
There's also a few different ways IG can initiate. Obviously, the Ashe Arrow is
That's the main
a
one.
really large part of their initiation, and that allows them to really single out one individual and will basically make it so if the Ashe Arrow connects and Kakao goes in, Rekkles is required to use his Sivir ultimate just to match the fight, because they'll basically have to run in after whoever is getting pulled in. And I'm actually kind of happy we had the delay here because we did so much prep. We finally got a chance to talk about some of this stuff. We're back in the game.
Yes, we are, Jat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get back onto the Rift. Well, game one of the group stages in Le Dark Pullman. The Summoners Cup is etched into the mid lane to remind each and every player what they are competing for, and a defensive start across the board.
Febivan was the first man in the middle lane. That means he gets the trophy for himself. For now, at least. IG gonna look to take it away from him already. Very defensive start. We see Kid sitting under his tower. This is in case Fnatic invades in on the top side of the map and start deep warding to spot where they're going. They won't see him when he's hiding here unless they just check all the way over the wall.
There are so many different lane swap scenarios, and in all of the LPL games we watched, it felt like the LPL games were the hardest to predict out of all of them. So here, it's Kid alone hiding behind one turret, which would be an indicator that they want to hide Kid up in that lane so that they can't scout where the AD carry is, but it also means that IG doesn't necessarily care if there's a lane swap or not. They're mainly just trying to deny knowledge.
And we see right here, none of the teams really invaded in and put down multiple wards, just a ward here on the red buff of IG from Fnatic, trying to see if they can spot Kakao starting on the top side of the map or on the bottom side. And obviously, if you don't see him on this red buff within the next 30, 40 seconds, you know he started on the bottom side, and that's always good information to get. I want to see if IG wants to freeze this top lane, because they are a region, or LPL is a region, where they very often focus on the AD carry experience in these lane swaps, and you can see Kid already up in this top side here, just grouping the minions together and gonna start a freeze for himself.
Let's find out how that freeze pays out. Rekkles down in the bottom lane. Yellow
Is
Star.
going to find something here. Just a little bit late on this invade. This was mainly an invade to check who was starting. He can now ping out Huni that he did a solo start, which actually tells the rest of the team a lot. Nice steal there by Yellow Star.
But this is one of these situations where if you do not invade in at level 1 to try and take over a jungle, it's very hard for you to deny anything in the early game. So Huni got his camp, got to back down to the bottom side, and Rekkles should be pushing this bottom lane if I know the Fnatic lane swap correct. And that means they're just gonna look to take over the bottom side of the map. But Fnatic at the same time, they didn't invade either. So we saw IG clear away this jungle. Reynova and Huni can only get a Grump for themselves. Everything else is cleared.
You can see them holding hands in the bottom half of the jungle. Reynova and Huni, that is. Tower is going to be under threat shortly as Rekkles continues to shove the wave up. And every time we look middle, Febivan's trying to poke out Rookie.
Yeah, this is actually where the lane swap will be made or broken. Kid is freezing in the top lane, whereas the bottom lane for Fnatic is shoving. And Hecarim and Elise are trying to cut off the Thresh and Riven.
IG can't do this. This is way too late. They're sending people down. When there's a fast push happening,
IG was slow
you
on this lane
know
swap.
there's gonna be 4 people on the bottom side. They show themselves so late that Fnatic can move in between tier 1 and tier 2 on the bottom side and zone them away, meaning Riven got absolutely nothing, and now they're late to pushing the top tower as well.
It can effectively turn into an untradeable turret because the rate at which Fnatic got to push that lane and how they can actually bounce that wave off the turret for Huni to farm means they would be able to rush top before that turret falls.
Oh.
This is very much now IG needing to take advantage of Kid's experience advantage that he will have because they will be down in the global gold race.
Yeah, IG won't even be able to touch the top lane tower here. Kid is looking to just maybe shove the wave out and then go back and buy for himself because he has nothing yet. Bot lane tower didn't go down.
Bounce
Mistake.
quite properly.
Fnatic recall a little bit too early, just got a little bit too eager in getting this lead here.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty big mistake there. Huni, if he would have gotten a little bit more damage from one of his allies before they peeled back to the jungle, they could have bounced the previous wave, which would have preempted the Zatai teleport. Now, Fnatic will have to add an extra person to that bottom lane if they want to take the turret. That sliver of health on the turret makes a big difference in the early game.
The whole strategy from Fnatic was to early take that tower and bounce the wave back so he would freeze and push away from Zatai. He would get less farm. He does have to overextend still because he's pushing down towards Huni. That's why Rainova is showing himself on the bottom side. And Kid just recalled from top lane. He didn't have enough gold for a pickaxe, so no advantage for Kid yet.
Yeah, not only is Rainova showing bottom lane, he's already used a pink ward there to give some more help to Zatai. Down in the bottom lane, Zatai's going in. He's going to use those broken wings, get some damage onto Huni, and Huni's forced to rampage away. Easy victory in the trade for Riven.
It's suddenly a problem right here for Fnatic. Because the turret was not killed, Zatai actually got to use some of his advantage. All that time investment that Fnatic put into hitting that turret, IG was using to garner experience for the majority of their team. Hecarim needs to be able to win the melee versus melee duel there, and Zatai could end up getting a lot of farm in this lane.
Now, it's not all bad for Fnatic because they got the big wave coming down to Huni. They're even in AD carry experience, or maybe a small advantage for Kid, but not enough to make a difference. You even see Reckless hitting 5, seeing as he has the big wave coming down for Kid. So, for now, it is not all bad for Fnatic, but they just lost the chance to get a big advantage.
Yeah, and what's interesting here actually is that Reckless has a superior CS score to Kid, despite Kid being left alone in that top lane during all of the early game action. Fnatic actually able to push that in with Sivir, so it is somewhat a trade of lanes.
And I quite like Sivir into Ashe, because you can constantly push the wave here, make it fairly difficult for IG then to coordinate a proper gank, and you have the spell shield. So what Ashe would normally do is she's gonna sit fairly passive in the start of the laning phase, hit level 6, arrow someone in the face, and a TP comes in and you have a massive fight already started. Spell shield from Reckless is gonna stop that. Taunt from Yellowstar to dodge out of the arrow makes it very difficult for Kid to set it up. And now he's just gonna get pushed down to his tower over and over.
Well, take a look at the trinkets already. Febiven swapped over to that sweeping trinket for fairly early on for the mid lane, and we do see Kakao hovering in this bottom lane. Huni's gonna come out slightly ahead in that trade, as he did know Rainova was right behind Kabaka.
Well, also a very early Sightstone from Kakao once again, so he's going for some pretty strong river ward control. I don't necessarily expect Kakao to get in for some deep wards. And an interesting choice there. Huni had a big wave, but Kakao actually, Zatai allowed it to kill the turret, and he might look to freeze this. That's a somewhat dangerous lane unless he gets firm support.
I do like the call though from Zatai just backing away, because he knows if Rainova is on the bottom side of the map, that's a 2v2 IG is not going to win with a level 4 Sightstone Skarner. So he backs away, he plays it safe, he knows the tower is too low anyway, and now we're just gonna have to see how Fnatic push up. I like the move again from Rainova. He's staying on the bottom side, and because Huni's pushing up, he can invade in.
Yeah, so this is the early mid-game power of the Elise and the Hecarim kicking in. We go all the way 5 or 6 minutes back to the beginning of this lane swap. This is what we thought was going to happen for Fnatic when IG was slow to react to the bottom lane turret push. It took a while to formulate here, but this is that early goldie that we're expecting from Fnatic about 3 minutes early.
Yeah, and Fnatic can just keep playing around the bottom side. You're gonna have Shen, who can join in very soon. He's still level 5, but about to hit level 6, and then you even have a numbers advantage. And as I highlighted earlier here, IG's bottom lane, it's very difficult for them to set up any play, so they're just gonna have to farm on the tower and wait for Skarner's level 6.
Well, getting closer and closer for Kakao. Kid as well as Reckless hit their respective ultimates, but with Kid having that early boots, he's 500 gold behind Reckless. So Reckless has got enough for that BF sword. Is in fact starting to back Yellow Star. No Stand United completed just yet.
And Fnatic got to push the bot lane wave close to the tower. So now it starts pushing back. One of the minions will die to the tower itself, and Zitai is going to build up a pretty large wave that Huni has to make sure he gets, because you cannot afford to fall behind in this matchup. Even see Huni. Early Frozen Heart he's aiming towards, because he knows the all-in from Riven is what he needs to respect.
Yeah, that one little longsword got lost somewhere along the way, but
You know.
definitely looking like he's doing a Frozen Heart rush with a tiny little bit of offense early.
Well, not losing there, or not securing the tower early on may have changed the decision-making as far as Huni is concerned. He has once again gone to that bottom lane. Deficio looking to catch that wave. And we catch a glimpse back in this middle lane. Febiven and Rookie, we've not seen them trading too often, but even on CS,
Yeah,
Rookie's gone for a second upgrade on that Hex Tech, while Febiven's about to back and spend.
a lot of the jungle pressure has been about creating space for Huni in this bottom lane with the deep wards from Reignover inside the jungle of IG. So it's kind of expected that the Azir and the Victor would just be trading farm in the mid lane. Keep in mind, this is the nerfed Victor from generally the last time we saw him in most competitive play, aside from the regional qualifiers. They're trying to put on 5.16. So he's not getting as much early mana from that tier 2 upgrade on Victor, and will have to be a little bit more conservative with the way he shoves the wave.
And exactly that is a fairly big key in this matchup, because Azir with Nash's first can just keep shoving the wave without using a whole lot of mana himself. You can try and starve the Victor simply, because if he goes back to base at the wrong time, Azir is so effective as well at pushing down the tower, and that's how Fnatic can keep trying to snowball this tower advantage they already built up with the first one, and in fact none of their towers took any damage.
Yellow Star's in trouble. He's already taunted and needs to flash over the wall. Zitai's hungry for blood. He's come forward as well. Use those broken wings over. 3 members of IG are nearby. Caught a glimpse of Reignover, and gents, he's actually gone Runeglaive Elise. That's a little different for Fnatic, and Reignover is traditionally one of their primary tanks.
It's something Reignover did in the first game he played Elise against Origin in the finals. It's a squishier build, but this time they actually have a tank in the top lane, so I can see him more getting away with it. The longer Fnatic can hold these lanes, the better. That entire invade by Yellow Star, while it did burn his flash, gave Huni a large amount of free time in the bottom lane, whereas Zitai has not been able to farm. So that farm discrepancy amongst top laners is only going to grow as long as these lanes maintain their current form.
And obviously Zitai here saying, I can't do anything on the bottom side of the map. The wave is going to be at his tower. I'm going to try and make a play. But Kid and Kitties are not ready to give up this top lane to him and try and swap the lanes around, because Fnatic can fast push him so effectively. So he's just going to return to the bottom side. We're going to have exactly the same situation. Skarner is level 6 though, even level 7 for Kakao. So now the ganks can start happening, and he's going in on Rookie!
Oh, Rookie's going to flash the cocoon. Summon a spell blown at the cost of Reignover's flash.
Yeah, even so, Rookie still has cleanse, even if the cocoon would have landed. The shuffle that Febiven pulled from the mid lane there wasn't quite as clean as he would have liked, but they still do burn one summoner spell.
I would like to see Fnatic though start using this Shen. Make some plays with Huni. He's fairly strong already. He has some armor if he wants to tower dive. And whenever Riven is stuck on the tower here, you can set up a 3v1. You just need to know where Skarner is on the map.
Yeah, and the main thing Fnatic's doing with the Shen ultimate right now is just pushing up the mid lane with the Stand United in their back pocket. They are waiting for Kakao to become relevant. Even though he is level 6, he still hasn't upgraded the Cinderhulk, whereas Reignover's been sitting on his jungle upgrade for quite some time. This entire sector of the map, where because of the positioning of the mid and top laner we expected IG to be strong on, has actually been heavily controlled by Fnatic through champion select, through lane swapping, and through their play.
Exactly.
And that allows them to get the first dragon, extending the gold lead to 1,600. All of that free time for Huni is just money in the bank. And we did continue to see Febiven pushing down that mid outer turret. It's been chunked lower and lower every time Rookie backs.
And things are not looking to get much better for IG right now, because Kid has been forced to go back at some very poor timings for himself. He had got a pickaxe and then a bit of crit the last time. Again, there's no BF sword for him. He's not hitting really a point where he's going to be very strong compared to Reckless, who's building just to fast push waves with early attack speed. Huni's going to continue doing the same. Frozen Heart is completed. They're basically waiting for Kakao to pull the trick in one of the lanes, but it's going to be very difficult for him because he doesn't know where Reignover is on Elise, and he doesn't know if the Shen ulti can just come down instantly and stop this gank from happening.
I did see the IG ward near the Grompa Fnatic spotting out Reignover's Elise for the time being. A little bit of information to work with, and look at the bottom lane. Zitai pushing up the tower heavily, but Reignover's focus is on the top half of the map.
Yeah, and Zatai's actually taking some pretty heavy risks right now to be pushed up this far because that quadrant of the jungle that Huni has behind him is completely empty as far as IG is concerned. They're looking to make a risky play because IG has kind of lost control of a lot of this. The Vision War is being won by Fnatic, and therefore they're moving down blind, essentially, to where they want to go. Fnatic
top lane.
preempting the other side.
He is on the hunt down the Cocoon. Kitties is caught, and he's killed by Reignover. First blood to the Europeans, Fnatic.
Fnatic had the pressure on the top side of the map. They push in the tower, and IG once again returned from base to that top side with Kid and Kitties, and there was nothing they could do. Fnatic has the map control, and then you can go for these plays.
Not only was it a good play, it was a smart play by Fnatic right there. The play that IG was hoping to set up was essentially the same. They were hoping a 3 or 4 man dive onto the near empty lane, but they didn't have the vision control. Fnatic did. So they made a smart, safe, well-executed play, get first blood, and now a 3,000 gold lead.
And it is so key for Fnatic that they managed to make a play on the Shen lane itself. So there's still an ulti ready for Yellowstar, which is stopping the aggression from IG. We see it here. Kitties and Kid return from lane and quickly realize our tower is gone. We're now caught in the middle, and 4 members show up. Nothing they can do once they overextend. Poor call from IG. They get punished. And as I said, Yellowstar still has its ulti ready. Where's Skarner going to go?
One unfortunate thing there for Huni is that he did not get a kill nor an assist in that, despite using his teleport. Obviously, Zatai also burned teleport amongst the chaos, and if anything, I expect IG to maybe try and find their fight around the next dragon.
A few minutes
Although
away.
Fnatic has so much vision control.
And sight ward for both Reignover and Yellowstar doing a lot of work. Deep vision thanks to their first blood earlier. And Reignover a little bit tankier, got that giant spell completed. We did see a BF sword picked up for Kid, but Fnatic, cool, calm, and collected, slowly, you know, increasing their lead and increasing their advantage. Oh, gentlemen, Yellowstar, he fancies some
nice.
blood, and he's found Kitties, knocks him into Reckless's hands, and Febiven will take the second kill.
And this is where things just go downhill. As a support, you have no flash, but you're trying to get vision control back on the map, and then you get caught out. You're dead. Your tower now is taking damage.
And Fnatic wants more out of this. They're trying to just snowball this game out of control. They knew the flash was down on Kitties, so they got the repeat gank. Because they killed Kitties, they also get pink ward control inside the jungle of IG, and are looking to push down that low mid lane turret. If Fnatic can get the kills, 3 outer turrets to 0, as well as a move on the second dragon, it would be huge.
Well, take a look at Huni. He's been caught by the Crystal Arrow. Here comes Kakao. Get over here, he screams. Stand United used to keep Huni alive. Tower is secured in the mid lane as Reckless gets that killing blow. Defensive peel from Fnatic. They're running away. That onslaught of shadows needed to get Huni away. We do see the Sun Disc thrown down for defense, and Febiven will be able to get out. That was close, but they got the tower.
Yeah, they got the turret. Huni was trying to make a poke play, and because they'd saved the Stand United and Huni had gone for Frozen Heart for a tankier Hecarim, he was able to escape. So much burned by IG there. The Flash and the Skarner ultimate being burned in that engagement, as well as Ash Arrow, really hurts IG's ability to fight back now. 3 turrets to 0 is not something that is often recovered.
I just have to really highlight how valuable this Shen pickup is for Yellowstar as a support against what IG had built. We kept highlighting how much single target CC they had to catch out one guy, and Yellowstar could stop that. And now we see once Kakao gets onto a champion, Yellowstar is there anyway to help, Huni gets out, and more important for Fnatic, all they were waiting for the last 5-6 minutes was just these outer turrets to die. They kept having to push in every single lane. Once the towers went down, now we see them contest all the vision in the jungle, and soon there's no jungle left for Kakao to farm. It's going to belong to Fnatic.
So Fnatic stamping authority in game 1 of groups, that 4,000 gold lead thanks to exquisite lane pressure. 30 seconds to Dragon. Chat, you'd mentioned IG may want to fight around it, but they're quite far down if they want to think about it.
Yeah, they lost their Summoner Flash on Kakao. Their ultimates will be back around the right time, but they just strictly don't have the vision control. They have lost so much map pressure to how well Fnatic has played these lanes and how timely Fnatic's ganks have been. As soon as IG looks towards this dragon, Fnatic is hoping to get more picks and a larger snowball. Kakao needs some help. really lucky to be getting that ward down without being punished.
There's just barely any other options though for IG. Then try and go down here and try and catch out a target with Arrow and then Skarner to get that one kill, because otherwise the map
It's
is low.
essentially Hawk Shot into Ash Arrow, but if they do Ash Arrow, the team has to be able to follow. That's a teleport, that's an arrow.
The
It's
arrow
cleansed.
does go on Featherman, but it's instantly cleansed. Dragon secured. They turn their focus to Kakao. There's the team fight. Onslaught of Shadows throws IG's backline. Zatai's forced to retreat. They've traded 1-for-1 thus far, but Reckless takes out Rookie. Now they're looking for Cocoon. It's Cocoon. Cocoon is down. Rainover gets another one. It's a 3-for-1 plus Dragon.
We talked about it here for IG. They were running out of options. This was never going to be the best one, but they had to do something. We see it right here. You try and catch Febiman. He has a cleanse. Spell shield on the Sivir. It is impossible for Kid to find the right target, and Fnatic, they take another fight.
And what's most impressive about Fnatic's 6,000 gold lead here at 19 minutes is the fact that they didn't have to take large risks in order to acquire this. They have just been playing the lane swap game extremely cleanly. They are ganking with vision control, and they are forcing IG into unfavorable, low percentage plays. We were wondering if Fnatic would have to adopt a higher risk play style against these better teams at Worlds. So far, no, they're just playing amazing.
And notice here, Febiman with the cleanse, doesn't care about the arrow, and now IG's composition, there's no real front line. Kakao is too squishy, Zitai and Kiddies are trying to be that front line for Rookie and Kid, but they die too fast and have to back out.
Specifically, IG built themselves a pick composition that relies on teleport flanks. The pick didn't work because they were 5-man brawling into a fight that Fnatic has set up with a zone control mage in Azir. That was almost never going to be a one fight for IG because the setup was not even close to where it needed to be.
And we're not even at the point yet where Fnatic can get a QSS. And simply say also Skarner ulti, we don't even care about that on our carries, because right now for Fnatic, they can split up in 1-3-1 setups. You normally don't want to do that against an Ashe because she can just arrow out of vision, catch one guy, and then break this split push. But because again you have the Sivir, you have the Shen ulti, you have cleanse on Febivan, nothing really hurts them from what Ashe can do to engage. And that is the main engage from IG, other than a flash ulti from Kakao.
As we've crested the 20-minute mark, Fnatic are quite infamous for their 20 to 25-minute Baron secures. There's already a pink ward in the pit. And we've talked about the 1-3-1, another option for Fnatic, play the Baron bait game. If any region knows how to dance around that objective, it's going to be Europe. And look, they're calling IG, saying we dare you to check.
And Fnatic really is far ahead. Fnatic was praised for their ability to come back in some games. The largest Fnatic was down at 20 minutes this year in which they were able to achieve victory was 4,700 gold. They have a larger lead than that over IG right now. So the chance of comeback from IG is actually very low. And either Fnatic would have to make some pretty large mistakes from here on out, or IG would just have to play otherworldly.
Small window with no cleanse on Febiman, but should be ready in just a few seconds, and then that engage option is down. Kakao has flash ready. IG needs to just pick off one target when the fight starts, and you need this Riven to be able to get into the backline and take care of Reckless or Febiman, but there's been no chance for Zitai to have an impact.
Yeah, I mean, part of this goes back to champion select, and another part goes back to the way the lane swap was played out. Kakao is not a jungler who can apply the early jungle pressure to get Riven and Edge. Hecarim then stacked armor, and it's been a beautiful counter pick from there, but now Fnatic, they're going for Baron.
They are indeed. The arrow's coming out. It's connected onto Rainover. It is in fact Febivan that secures Nash. Victor's going to peel away. That got close, and we did see the teleport come in as well.
Really strange interaction happened right there. Febivan actually put his Azir ultimate up against the Baron wall, and Kakao tried to flash over to steal the Baron, but specifically because the way the soldiers work, unless your entire model is over top of the Azir ultimate, he will get bounced back. So Kakao flashed in, immediately got pushed back, and could not smite it.
Now, we have seen IG fall behind basically from the start of the game. And that is something as a team we have seen multiple times before in the LPL. They have been so inconsistent. We just see it here again. Kakao not flashing all the way over. The way Azir
What's
won't
terrifying
work.
is he actually got his smite off.
It
so
was close.
He did 700
it was
damage.
close.
Just Baron was at 1,000 when his smite did 700.
But Azir wall is not like a normal wall here on the map where you can flash almost over it and you will move to the other side. If you don't flash fully over it, you will always get bounced back. But as we just mentioned before here, IG as a team has been so inconsistent in the LPL, and they managed to bounce back then in the next game and look fantastic. For them now, they need to figure out what can they do here But they're so far down at 22 minutes, it should be nearly impossible for this team to come back.
Gentlemen, we saw Yellowstar shoving out that bottom wave. It's a third item QSS for Febiven. Another tower falls. And for the European team on home soil, when European squads have more than 4,000 gold lead at 20 minutes, they are 42-0. That is an exceptional stat. When you've generated an exceptional lead, another tower is going to crumble under the might of Fnatic.
And this is precisely what Fnatic is getting out of this Baron. They're getting the second-tier turrets in almost every wave. The gold difference from before they take this Baron to when the Baron goes out is going to be massive.
And when you can see the support pushing
Yellowstar
because
is
of
a big
Baron
pusher now.
and Stand United,
He just wants
it's
to be part of
fantastic.
this. He just wants to be important as well.
He's getting the wave going. Hootie's coming in on the backside. These are indefensible outer turrets for IG.
Yeah, and of course the right call from Fnatic. No teleport for Huni, so you needed someone else to take in the wave with you. It is going to be Yellowstar. No ban of command yet, slacking a little bit on that one. If it comes in later, then there's nothing IG can do to wave clear as well.
The question marks around which IG would show up are coming to light, and the question marks about just how good are Fnatic on the international? How good are they after their boot camp? They're showing pretty good.
It's one game, but this game isn't even close. Like, Fnatic is absolutely demolishing IG right here. We obviously can't make any conclusions off the first game at Worlds when it's going to be a month-long tournament.
Wait, Fnatic didn't win Worlds yet?
Yeah, it's over. Congratulations. Even so, this early game, this mid game, the way Fnatic is playing, well controlled with so much pressure in front of the home crowd, is all very good.
I think we really can just praise Fnatic for the pick and ban phase. It looked a little bit worrisome on the blue side here. They didn't really have anything where we felt they could see any of the soul lanes from IG, but just the fact they have this Sivir pick into the Ashe that completely nullifies what Kid can do with his arrow and just push him in early. The Hecarim, the melee matchup who can go Frozen Heart as well, and then Shen's support against a team that relies so much on what their top laner can do 1v1. It's just a very smart pick and ban phase for Fnatic, and they're getting rewarded for it.
One thing we did discuss about top lane being a more influential role, and the patch in general, was that it was going to be a little bit more swingy, more snowbally, because a lot of this game is about gaining a quick advantage and then trying to win within 20 minutes. In this case, Fnatic has accumulated an 11,000 gold lead only 25 minutes in, but that's in part because some of those matchups were so swingy, and instead of having, for IG's sake, a top lane tank to fall back on and create some stronger team fights, they've fallen behind on Riven, which is one of the most devastating things to have happen.
And you're falling behind on an Ashe. Your damage is not anything to write home about, and if you cannot pick off targets, your value really goes down. She's a fantastic snowball pick. Don't like her that much once she starts falling behind. But really for IG, in this situation, and what we're probably going to see for the rest of Worlds, is that the current meta is very snowball focused. You can very quickly get an advantage where you take over one side of the map and you can keep forcing plays on that side, and we're going to get these leads here. Think back to Season 4 Worlds with Samson White, how dominant they were when it came to vision control and simply forcing you out of your own jungle. That style has been now taken by most of the top teams, and they're trying to perfect it, and we're going to see more of that at Worlds itself.
You can see that massive goal difference between the respective players. It is over 10,000 gold now. Another QSS was picked up on the side of Fnatic, and Baron has worn out. So Fnatic have successfully taken all outer turrets, 26 minutes into the game, and now they've shown strong early, strong mid. Fnatic need to demonstrate that they can have a strong closing to the game. All summoners are up, all ultimates are up. The jungle belongs to Fnatic. This is what we talked about earlier with the lead that Fnatic have built up.
Yep.
Do they just play it safe and go for another Baron or maybe Aspect before looking to finish?
I say Fnatic is definitely going to be playing this one pretty safe. That's why they've had the luxury of building 2 QSSs, because the last thing they want is to have a priority target pulled into an inhibitor or a Nexus turret and get quickly executed. With Baron coming up in about 90 seconds and Fnatic having complete control of the map, that's obviously the next thing they're going to be going to take. Fourth Dragon would not be far behind that, but I expect Fnatic to at least try and make a play with the Baron buff, and if they get even the slightest bit dissuaded, I think they'd be going for Aspect, because the overall timer on that is still pretty early in the game, and Fnatic wants to keep their options open.
Just take the Baron buff, go for your 1-3-1 setup again, where you have Huni sitting in one lane, let Reckless fast push another one, and then join Febiven, and you can either dive if you want to, you are strong enough, you're far enough ahead, or you can just wait for these Baron buff minions to do the work. The wave clear on the side of IG, it's mainly gonna be on Rookie, but AP champions, they hate the Baron buff because the minions no longer will just get one shot by your E if you are the victor, and they will buy time for Fnatic to just slowly but surely poke down the towers. If an engage happens, as you mentioned, Jad, double QSS is in here, Shen ulti is gonna be there, Face of the Mountain. There's so many ways for Fnatic to make sure a single target will not die.
Yeah, right now Fnatic is kind of hoping in the back of their heads that IG is going to try and contest this Baron, because it would be very nice if they could pick off multiple people in IG and then just end the game instead of waiting for these Barons. But with the 12,000 gold lead, it is within Fnatic's right to just smatter this jungle with wards.
Using those sweeping lenses to clear out any vision from IG. You can see Invictus have grouped up near the north quadrant as they clear out the wave in mid. But look at Fnatic's positioning. They are tightly knit. We could be set up for a fight. That's a Sand Soldier. He's been sent forward.
Huni's coming from the
exploratory.
flank.
Yeah, Huni is in potential flank position. IG is actually pretty far away
Look at
from the base, and
Yellowstar.
They do not have wards on the side. Multiple flanks. They're just bailing out of here, though.
Gonna make it out. Kakao looking for more. Isn't gonna have access to that Spire just yet. Yellowstar and Reignover backs away. Gonna use the dash to dodge the death sentence. Everybody's postured very aggressively. Crystal Spire secured for Kakao Scholar. Where is Huni? Mid lane. Let's see if we can find a flanking opportunity.
No home guards from either top lane, so we're not going to see that insane flank coming in from Huni or Zitai, but both teams, they know this next fight will be the fight deciding the game. If IG can manage to win it, they will be able to stall the game. If Fnatic takes it, they should be able to push and open up the base completely. They're starting the Baron. No reason to risk Kakao flashing in and stealing it. Fibber needs to be on point with his ulti if they want to go for
Somewhat
this.
of a dangerous Baron start, but here's the teleport from Huni. He has flank.
He's found Zitai. The onslaught slows him down. Reckless has got one. Reignover flashes over the wall. He's looking for kitties. That's a defensive flash. Emperor's Divide will not pin Kakao to the wall. It's a battle on three fronts, and it's a battle that Fnatic is winning. That's a triple kill for Reckless. There's two more targets in his sight. He's looking for more. Here's the tower dive. Huni is chasing Kid down. A flash away. The ricochet. It's bouncing. It's spinning. Reckless. Can he get more? Boomerang's not there. Huni and Reckless are inside the base of IG.
Fnatic chase so far, and the minion wave is there. That's an inhibitor down, but they're playing the long game. They get the inhibitor and the one fight.
Everything counts for Fnatic. They get the kills. They get a Zhonya's as well from Februin. Showing off a little bit. Can go back. That's a surrender from IG. They know the game was over.
Invictus Gaming surrender, and the hometown heroes strike first blood at the 2015 World Championships.
Fnatic had a goal lead since 2 minutes into the game. They had a better lane swap. IG were very greedy with the way they moved Zitai around. He got denied. And this conversation from Fnatic had all the answers versus the pick comp from IG.
Yeah, and this is a statement game for Fnatic. They made it to 5 games against SK Telecom and MSI. They went undefeated in the regular season, but then they dropped 2 games to Origin in their finals. And a lot of people were wondering how they would be able to stand up to these expectations. Well, early read on it is very, very well.
We started the spring split looking at Europe and saying we just crashed and burned at Season 4 Worlds. We didn't make it out of groups at all. We had a long way to become a competitive region again. Fnatic shows up with Yellowstar, 4 new guys. They look good in the spring split. Not fantastic, but good. Win it, go to MSI, 5 games against MSI. We started believing this team had potential.
Well,
18-0. 18-0 in the summer split, win the whole thing, and now we suddenly trust in Fnatic. We believe that Fnatic can be a team that can take at least the group. I'm not gonna go further than that.
Well, the whole town and crowd here in Europe is definitely rooting for Fnatic. And Jat, I distinctly remember Jat22 on Fnatic mentioning how they, in their victories, they didn't show the greatest of elation. They lost it after seeing the surrender votes.
Well, specifically being in front of this crowd as well, to start the World Championship against the other favorite in the group and to beat them so decisively has to be a fantastic sense of accomplishment. The challenge now for Fnatic will be to not let up, because this was the first of their 6 group stage games, which would lead to even more games at Worlds if they continue to succeed.
And IG has been here before, where they lose a game and they know how to bounce back again. We keep talking about how they've been inconsistent. They are a fantastic team. This composition didn't really seem to fit them, or at least give them a lot of openings to make plays. With the Skarner from Kakao, he had no impact. I'm sure they will bounce back, and they will still be one of the favorites to make it out of groups.
And of course, talking about the word bouncing, we're going to have to keep our eye on the lane swap scenarios. There's so much talk about how each region lane swaps and how you need to adapt to your opponent's lane swaps. It felt like Fnatic just had a much better read from early, despite that little misstep on the first tower.
It was a minor misstep even
Yeah.
at the end of the day, because they didn't lose the top lane despite Kid freezing it for so long. And then Hooting did get a small amount of jungle pressure from Reignover and could easily take the turret over. So honestly, IG was very slow at keeping up with that lane swap. And the
It's a
instant
sloppy
they
one.
tried to push down, it was just maybe 2 full steps behind where Fnatic
Yeah.
was as far as the decision tree that you have to go down in a complex lane swap. Fnatic crushed it.
They did, and that's what gives you such a big lead. And when you play champions like Riven, you can never afford to fall behind. You have to snowball from it, and that's basically what IG didn't manage to do.
Now, if we step back just a little bit, and we go back to picks and bans, Maud, Lulu, GP.
The 3
We're
picks.
going all the way back to
Like,
bans.
I just, Darius, like, all of the question marks we had as far as champions are concerned,
Yeah.
if they're banned, I'm very interested to see how the rest of these teams play and the rest of the pick ban priority happens.
Well, specifically, I think the flaw from ID's team composition here was pairing Riven with a low early pressure jungler. And Fnatic jumped all over top of that. They already had the Elise when the Skarner was locked in, and they're just like, okay, well, out melee versus melee, you one of the swingiest top laners in the game in Hecarim, and they had superior jungle pressure. So that was just a really good outdraft in that specific instance by Fnatic.
We saw more standard picks, though, I want to say, compared to what I expected. Because Fnatic and IG are teams where they have pulled out some crazy stuff in the past, at least. We've seen a lot of weird picks. We didn't get to see that right here. I mean, this is what I expect to see more of, like these kind of picks in here, especially the bans as well, with the 3-1 you mentioned, Mordekaiser, Lulu, and Gangplank, and Darius coming in from Fnatic. So we didn't get to see the big surprise yet, but there's a lot more games today.
Yeah, there really is. There's a lot more games throughout the entire group stage. I want to see just exactly how the rest of them pan out. We will be getting an interview ready for you guys shortly, but I think we actually are in fact ready. So let's head over to Shox, where we can chat to a few members of the victorious Fnatic.
Thank you so much, guys, as I am joined here by Huni and Yellowstar after that fantastic victory of Fnatic in the very first game of the group stage over IG. Well, you guys had the fan support at the beginning. You have it even more now. Let's talk about the game a little bit first. Picks and bans, which were quite unexpected maybe coming out of the side of IG. How do you think you handled it? What was the hardest thing to deal with?
I think they have a particular style where the bot lane is really passive, and then they usually do plays around the top lane. So we try to shut him down as much as we can, and our coach Taylor is preparing the draft.
And then you guys got into the game, did very well early. Huni, you ended up in the lane against Zitai, against Riven as Hecarim. How did that go? Because in the beginning, it looked kind of rough for you.
Just goal was for me, just I'm not dying, and then to hold just Riven, because Riven is really a strong lane phase champion. And then actually Hecarim is into Riven, the champion can hold, and just he doesn't die, and then I'm just farming. That was my job. And I did it.
You did it very well, and again, you guys snowballed the game from there. What was the moment that you realized, okay, we got this game, guys. We just don't give it out of our hands. We have it.
Yeah, he didn't want to say it, but he said that he was a better Riven, so he was a bit shy, you know?
Throwing him under the bus a little bit, but maybe something we get to see further on in the group stage as well. This was only the first game, but it was very, very convincing. And you know how high the expectations are on the shoulders of you two, and as Fnatic coming out of Europe. How does your mindset change now? What do you have to be careful of after such a convincing victory in the first game?
As the regular season, we don't want to think about further games. So we just take one by one, and then we just focus on our next match. We shouldn't, we play to our maximum and just play our game.
Huni, you've said before you want to show that you is better than Nate, that you're the best top laner in the world. For you, you've said a lot coming into this World Championship. How do you feel about this first game and what you can show in the rest of the tournament?
Well, it was just first game, and then it was just group stage game. So, and I did just well, and I didn't carry alone. So, I'm not yet best top laner in the world. So, I will prove
Not yet. Maybe in the final you can prove it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they already think so. Finalement, Yellow Star, gagner ici, c'est très spécial, j'imagine, pour vous. Est-ce que vous voulez dire quelque chose à fans ici?
Je pense que la raison pour laquelle on est venu ici pour la phase de poule, c'est parce qu'il y a le plus de matchs, le plus de jours, c'est parce que vous êtes le meilleur public, je pense. Hein? En tout cas, depuis la création de Fnatic, j'ai envie de vous remercier, plus particulièrement au public français, parce que vous étiez beaucoup à y croire, à nous soutenir et m'envoyer beaucoup de messages de soutien. Et j'ai envie de vous dire merci encore une fois. Et c'est grâce à vous.
Well, a lot of nice words from Yellow Star for the fans, thanking them and saying that they are one of the best crowds in the world, if not the best, and want to thank them for their support to Fnatic throughout the years. Well, thank you guys very much. What a fantastic start to the tournament for Fnatic. And as for us, we're going to go back over to the guys at the desk.
Thank you, Shaks. I mean, what an extraordinarily convincing win there for Fnatic right out the gate. Has to make them feel good about at least their chances in this group, securing the first seed above the second, and really setting themselves up well for the quarterfinals.
I like what Yellow Star was saying about the draft, that they really wanted to shut down the top lane. So by taking the Shen support is another pick that really hinders the aggression from the top lane. So Riven could never really all in that Hecarim pick, and they played a style where they just pushed all three lanes. So the Azir can push Invictor 24/7. Sivir with Shen just pushes nonstop. Same with the Hecarim, and you just have Elise running around doing whatever they want, and you don't even need to spend that much money on warding because you know where the jungler is because you have that Elise just going everywhere. So it's a very methodical, super simple game.
Well, in reference to the pick ban, earlier we asked which lanes you guys at home thought would have the biggest impact on 518, and at CustardCream86 tweeted all these changes to the mid lane and mid laners, and the mid laners in general, and we still see Azir and Victor. Gentlemen.
I think that's true. We are going to see Azir and Victor, but just because that happened this time doesn't mean that we're going to continue seeing that. There's going to be a lot more variety, but they still are very stable mid laners, very conservative picks that you can really rely on even in blind pick situations for the most part.
I feel definitely like the problem is like IG, well, not the problem, like the idea is that like IG picked Skarner and Riven. It kind of provokes the Azir because Azir is just so good into it generally. And like in mid, it's very, very few champions that are good against Azir. It's a safe blind pick in general.
Especially against a pick comp too. And I think if we start looking at the picks and bans and what IG was trying to do, I think it's smart of them to come in with a pick comp. If we look at teams, even in Fnatic's regular season, certainly they went 18-0. But for example, the Origin game with Xpeke on Twisted Fate, there has been a weakness in Fnatic to losing early skirmishes and having pick comps work against them. Now, in this particular situation, running an Ashe and running the Skarner for hard single target engage with the Thresh 2, then you have the Victor and the Riven for burst damage. So the Azir is a great pick because you can deny the initiation or just reset the team fight. So it does work well here. And then that forces the Riven to have some fancy teleport flank angles and other things like this. The problem, though, with IG is that if you run a pick comp like this, you have to get to Dragon first. You need to get the Skarner crystal down. You need to have priority on that objective and make sure there's no vision so you can set up the engage. Because if you don't get that, you're not going to win that 5v5.
I wouldn't even think it's just the Dragon. The laning phase in general was such a problem because I think with picks like that, you have to play so aggressive. You need to be the one that is pushing the enemy into their towers, and then you allow the jungler to do his thing. Kakao was farming the entire time. He got a Sightstone early. That is not the way you want to go about fighting a lot and fighting early.
I want to get Yamato in here. What do you pinpoint as the failure for IG?
I feel like the biggest problem with IG, I feel in the first rotation, they pick Skarner. Skarner is a champion that has so obvious weaknesses. And as Jad mentioned before, IG likes to play around their top lane. The first pick, Fnatic, like the Elise first pick was very, very good because it almost guarantees them to get the stronger 2v2 matchup. And with that in mind, the Skarner is a farm jungler, very weak against Elise in general, and has very, very obvious weaknesses in the shape of Azir.
All right, well, we saw Yeah, again, a very convincing win out of Fnatic here. Last thing I want to hit is just the importance of having won this first game, but also in such convincing fashion when we look towards 5 more best of ones to close out this group stage.
You know, it is important, and I think they played the lane swap situation very well. But at the same time, you can get the momentum off of that win. But if I'm Fnatic, there's not really a lot of takeaway from that game because so much of that was IG absolutely messing up the lane swap and giving them an insane pressure and a very good farm advantage. So it's kind of business as usual for Fnatic.
Exactly.
I wouldn't get too hyped up about it.
Well, it was a quick start for the World Championship here with a win going over to Fnatic. Now we need to step away as Cloud9 and AHQ take to the stage, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with a look into that matchup when we return.
Cool.